Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to begin this video by asking you guys some three very important questions. The first question I wanted to ask you guys is whether Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance can actually defeat William Samoei Arap Ruto in a free and fair contest in 2027 presidential elections in the Republic of Kenya. Is Azimio prepared? Do they have what it takes to defeat William Ruto? So that's the first question I wanted to ask. The second question, which is also related to the first question, is whether IEBC can conduct a free and fair election in the Republic of Kenya. The truth of the matter is that IEBC has always been accused of bungling elections in Kenya. In 2027, can IEBC conduct a free, fair, and credible elections? And the last question which I wanted to ask is whether William Samoei Arap Ruto can actually accept defeat in a situation where Azimio is declared the winner of the presidential elections. I don't know what your answers to those questions are, but for me, I see a challenge in one of those questions for Azimio. I strongly believe that if Azimio were to prepare well for the elections, they can easily win the election. If IEBC can conduct a free and fair election, Azimio can easily win the election. But I'm not sure whether William Ruto can accept defeat. In this video, I want to look at how Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance can actually defeat William Samoei Arap Ruto in 2027 presidential elections. Before we do that, for those who are watching this channel for the first time, please take a second or two, click that subscribe button so that next time we produce a video like this, YouTube will automatically notify you. And to the subscribers, I want to take this opportunity to also thank you guys for your continued support, because without that support, this channel cannot be where it is. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, allow me to dive in. But before I dive in, allow me to also take this opportunity to thank the following people. You are seeing their names on the screen there for the coffee which they sent to me earlier. You can also do the same using the numbers you are seeing on your screen, because it goes a long way in supporting the channel. Ligang, I'm waiting for you guys. Ladies and gentlemen, how can Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance defeat William Ruto in 2027? Let us begin by asking the right question. Can Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance defeat William Ruto in 2027? The answer to that is yes, they can defeat William Samoei Arap Ruto. Because if you look at the results of the 2022 presidential elections, the difference between Raila Odinga and William Ruto was only 200,000. In Nyanza alone, over 700,000 votes or voters never turned up to vote. In Azimio stronghold, like a place like Mombasa, the turnout was so low. In Kakamega, because of the gubernatorial elections which was postponed, the turnout was suppressed. So which means in a free and fair contest, Azimio can actually defeat William Ruto. Ruto is defeatable based on those figures alone. But unless Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance are strategic in their approach, they cannot. But let me explain to you guys how Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance can defeat Ruto in 2027 if they are serious. Only if they are serious. Because if they are not serious, William Ruto is not a pushover. It's actually a tall order for Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance to defeat Ruto. But they can if they want. Number one, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance must craft a winning formation. And that is the elephant in the room. And for Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance to craft a winning formation, they must make a lot of sacrifices. But can individuals within Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance sacrifice their ambitions, their own personal ambitions? For example, in 2027, either Kalonzo Musyoka or Raila Odinga must opt out of the presidential race if they want to win. One of them must agree that for the sake of our victory, I'm not going to run. If Azimio will realize that it's Kalonzo who is best suited, then Raila should be able to pave way. That's going to be a serious sacrifice. If they agree that it's Raila, then Kalonzo must be willing to sacrifice. And then about the formation. If that candidate is Kalonzo, who should Kalonzo be paired with? In my previous video today, I explained that it's going to be a tall order for Kalonzo ticket and Eugene Wamalwa ticket because of ODM factor. And I read comments there, and someone suggested that the best ticket would be for Kalonzo Musyoka and Babu Owino. I've never looked at it from that angle, but for me, that is a sure bet ticket if you ask me. But can ODM front Babu Owino to be Kalonzo Musyoka's running mate? I doubt if they can do that. So the first thing they have to do is they must craft a winning formation. And several factors must be considered when forming that winning formula or formation. The first factor should be game of numbers. Which formation can bring the highest numbers? Because politics, I've always told you, is a game of numbers, whether real or perceived. So that if you have to pair Kalonzo as the presidential candidate with the Kamba votes, then you have to figure out which other candidate can bring the highest number of votes. So I'm sure Azimio and their team are currently figuring out. Of the presidential candidate and the running mate, there must be, one of them must have the international networks. The truth of the matter is that Raila Odinga is not the president of the Republic of Kenya because of external factors. The international community, specifically the British government and the American government. It means for Azimio to win in the next election, they must have someone who will be able to lobby or negotiate with the lobbyists so that those lobbyists can negotiate with the power brokers in those countries. I remember, was it during Jubilee, they even hired the services, was it of Bill Clinton or was it of John Kerry? One of the Americans was really involved in their campaigns. So the idea was to negotiate with the government there to accept the candidate. And of course, resources. Either the presidential candidate and the running mate must be someone who can fund campaigns. And that's why I always believe that Mike Sonko, would be key for Kalonzo Musyoka. If Kalonzo Musyoka wants to be the presidential candidate, he must look for Sonko. Very, very important. And of course, one of them must be someone who is able to charge the crowd, basically who is able to talk. So for Azimio, the most important thing they must figure out is how are they going to come up with a winning formation. That's number one, and very, very important. Number two, the second way they can defeat Ruto is by monitoring the electoral process. Election in the Republic of Kenya is a process, it's not an event. Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance must understand that. And I'm seeing them losing election the moment they will allow the IBC selection panel to proceed with the appointment of commissioners without their input. During the last election, there were certain aspects of electoral processes which Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance overlooked. For example, how could Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance accept IBC to bring into the country a second copy of results? Of course, assuming it was a mistake, how could they allow those papers to be ferried to the polling stations? At whose cost? Who was footing for those bills? Election is a process. From the moment IBC will open voter registration, they must be very keen on how the registration kit would be distributed. The procurement of election materials. Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance must be able. William Ruto was able to do that while Azimio was asleep. He was able to identify a printing firm and he was deeply in it. And that's how that firm was able to print extra ballot papers. And that's how certain ballot papers had the name of Jose Camargo even way before election. And Azimio did nothing about it. So they must follow the procurement process. Who is going to procure the KIMS kit? Who is going to develop the system? And of course, the recruitment of IBC. Very, very important. In the last election, out of the 48 returning officers. Was it are they the presiding officer or returning officers? Out of the 47 per county, almost 20 something were from Kalenjin nation. And William Ruto ensured that those Kalenjins were distributed in Azimio strongholds. Like, for example, in Migori, one was in Nyatike. Nyatike is one of the highly populated areas of Nyanza. It had the highest number of votes in Migori County. The other one, I think, was in Uriri. So you must be very strategic. So this time around, if they want to be serious, then they must be part and parcel of the recruitment of IBC officials. The CEO, how is that person going to be recruited? The ICT officer, all those details. Azimio should be able to monitor all those systems. I don't know how they are going to do it, because when they had the system and the deep state, they failed to do it. Remember, for William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta to win in 2013, yeah, Musando had to disappear, because initially those who were doing recruitment at IBC assumed that Musando was a Kikuyu, and therefore being a Kikuyu, it was going to be easy, because Musando was using the name Chege. So they realized very late that, okay, this guy Kumbe is not a Chege of Kikuyu, ni Chege ya Mjaluo. So he had to be forced out. So they must ensure that they follow and they monitor the electoral process from now until 2017. If they will miss just a process during the period, they should forget. Number 3 is reactivating the grassroots networks. There is no way Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance will be able to defeat Ruto when Ruto is now the president of the Republic of Kenya. He has the chiefs, he has the assistant chiefs in his pocket. Of course, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance also has an advantage, because right now in the Republic of Kenya we have devolved governments. In Kisumu, for example, apart from the ward admins and the sub-county admins, Nyong'o has created actually what is calling village admins right down there. So Azimio can take advantage of their governors to create those kind of structures. But importantly, each political party within Azimio, Wiper for example, should mobilize their team on the ground. They should reactivate. And they can do that through door to door. Apart from political rallies. Like for example, today, Kalonzo was in Meru. You know, he went to church, went to the market there, talked, they've left. What about the background there? So they must have a team which is going to door to listen to people, explain to people what they're doing. They should have more of town hall meetings. And I love the way Raila Odinga is always organizing his events. If he goes to a place, the first thing, he has a town hall meeting with the opinion leaders. Then from there is when he's going to have those rallies. So they must also figure out. They should focus on rallies too. What about attending church services and penetrating the church? The intention really is not about mobilizing or reactivating. It's about voter turnout. With a proper voter turnout in Azimio strongholds, the presidency will be theirs. So they must focus on that. Number 4 is building alliances. You see, sometimes I look at Azimio, I look at Raila, and I sympathize with Raila, for example. Raila Odinga is the leader of ODM party. ODM party has always been accused of bungling the nominations, the ODM party nominations. Of course, all political parties do that. But I'm yet to hear of a meeting convened by Raila Odinga to meet with aspirants who contested and are dissatisfied. I'm yet. So it's very important for Azimio to start building those alliances with the candidates who are not happy. For example, when Raila Odinga goes to Coastal Region, I expect him to convene a meeting with the previous aspirants. Tell them, okay, it happened like that. Next time it's going to be like this. I want you guys to participate in party activities. I want to make this promise to you. The church is dumping Ruto. What is Azimio doing to take advantage of that? They should now move to own the church. The civil society in the Republic of Kenya is a very strong group. So they should start building alliances with them. The media What about the business community? You go to Kamkunji traders who are promised heaven by Kenya Kwanza government and now they are not happy with them. Talk to them. With a good messaging, you'll be able to explain to them how you're going to make life at least better for them, how you're going to address their challenges. So building alliances is very key. For example, up to now, I don't understand why Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance cannot convince Ekuru Aukot to their side. As much as he might not have the numbers, but he's an influential guy. Right? So there are several other kind of individuals who they should be able to persuade. Number 5 is policy proposals. You see, Azimio needs to offer an alternative. They must be able to convince Kenyans that Kenya Kwanza have failed to fight corruption. But not just accuse them of failing to fight corruption, they should also be able to provide intellectually how they plan to fight corruption, for example. What about the unemployment of the youths? They should be able to explain in a simple way which the youths can understand how they are going to create employment opportunities for them. What about healthcare? How are they going to address them? What about education? What about infrastructure? You see, William Ruto won the hearts of most Kenyans during the last election because he was able to explain some of these things, but through a populist approach, without any plan. Of course, he was just listening to what Uhuru was doing, waiting for Uhuru to Kenyatta to do something, then he would jump the other side. So policy proposals is also one way. So I expect Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance, for example, to tell Kenyans that if we take over, we are going to ensure that the cost of fuel is going to come down to this. And this is how we are going to do it. And they communicate effectively, which takes us to our last point, which is effective communication, or what I call communications strategy. How can Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance counter William Ruto's narrative? Very, very important. Because William Ruto is crafting a narrative, or crafted a narrative of the hustlers. Right now, the hustler narrative is dead. Is Azimio taking advantage of that? What message are they telling Kenyans? How are they communicating on the issue of tax? Because if there's a group of Kenyans or politicians who are lucky, then they're Azimio. William Ruto has always provided them with opportunity which they can explore, but they're not taking advantage of those opportunities. By the way, I don't know what you think, but for me, with a good strategy, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance can turn the tables on William Ruto and Kenya Kwanza government. I don't know what you think. That's my take. Until next time, this is Lee Makwiny. Bye-bye.